Christine's apartment smelled like coffee and lavender most evenings, a mix of her morning espresso and the diffuser she kept by the window. At 34, she'd built a life she was proud of. A marketing job that paid the bills, a cozy one-bedroom in Los Angeles, and King, her boyfriend of 3 years. King was her anchor, the guy who'd show up with tacos after her long workdays, his gold chain glinting under the kitchen light as he grinned. But tonight, something was off. It was 10:47 p.m. when King walked in, his Lakers cap tilted slightly, his steps heavier than usual. Christine was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, when she caught it. A faint whiff of coconut and sea salt. Not his usual cedarwood cologne or the gym sweat musk she'd grown used to. This was different, like a tropical breeze that didn't belong in their urban life. "Hey, babe," King said, dropping his keys on the counter. He leaned in for a hug, and the scent hit her harder, clinging to his shirt like a ghost. She pulled back, her smile tight. "New cologne?" she asked, keeping her tone light. King blinked, his brown eyes flickering. "What? Nah, probably the Uber. Driver had one of those little tree air fresheners, you know?" She nodded, like it made sense. Like she hadn't spent the last 3 years memorizing every detail of him. The way his gold chain, a gift from her for their first anniversary, sat against his collarbone. The way he always smelled faintly of cedar, even after a long day. An Uber air freshener? Sure. But her gut twisted, a quiet alarm she couldn't ignore. Christine wasn't the type to jump to conclusions. She prided herself on being rational, the kind of woman who'd analyze a problem before reacting. But as King headed to the shower, humming some unfamiliar tune, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The scent lingered in her mind, as vivid as a warning sign. The next morning, Christine woke to the usual chaos of her inbox. Client emails, meeting reminders, and a pitch deck due by noon. But her focus was elsewhere. She replayed last night, dissecting King's casual dismissal. An Uber air freshener? She'd been in enough Ubers to know those tree things smelled like cheap pine or vanilla, not coconut and sea salt. She opened Instagram, scrolling mindlessly to distract herself. That's when she saw it, a post from Lindsay, a coworker of King's from his tech startup. Christine had met her once at a company barbecue, all smiles and long legs, the kind of woman who made you feel like you were competing even when you weren't. Lindsay's post was a beach selfie, her hair wet, waves crashing behind her. The caption read, "Solo reset, just me and the waves." She froze. Something about the image felt off. She zoomed in, her thumb trembling. There, in the reflection of Lindsay's oversized sunglasses, was a faint but unmistakable figure. A man. His gold chain gleamed against a white tank top, and a faded Lakers cap sat low on his head. King. Her breath caught. She zoomed closer, heart pounding. It was him. The chain she'd picked out at a downtown jeweler. The cap she'd teased him about for years. It wasn't a coincidence. It couldn't be. Christine's mind raced. Lindsay's solo reset was a lie, and King's Uber excuse was crumbling. She sat back, the foam shaking in her hand. Part of her wanted to call him out right then, storm into the bedroom where he was still sleeping, and demand answers. But another part, the part that had trusted him through late nights and vague text, whispered to wait, to be sure. Christine spent the next 2 days in a quiet frenzy. She wasn't proud of it, but she became a detective in her own life. She checked King's phone when he was in the shower, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through his texts. Nothing obvious, no heart emojis or late-night confessions, but there was a number she didn't recognize, saved as L, a single message from last week. "Meet me at 7, same spot." Her stomach churned. She cross-referenced the date with King's schedule. He'd told her he was at a work happy hour that night, but the receipt she found in his jacket pocket, crumpled and forgotten, told a different story. It was from a beachside cafe, time-stamped 7:32 p.m., with 2 drinks listed, a piña colada and a beer. King didn't drink piña coladas. She dug deeper. His Spotify had a new playlist, Vibes, with songs about summer and waves, music he'd never listened to before. She checked Lindsay's Instagram again, combing through her stories. A fleeting clip showed her at the same cafe, laughing, with a piña colada in hand. No sign of King, but the pieces were fitting together too well. Christine's mind was a battlefield. She remembered the good times, King surprising her with a rooftop dinner, the way he'd hold her hand during scary movies. But those memories clashed with the evidence piling up. The scent, the selfie, the receipt, the playlist. It was all pointing to something she didn't want to face. She tried talking to King, keeping it casual. Over dinner, she mentioned the beach, testing him. Been craving some ocean air. Maybe we should hit Malibu this weekend. He shrugged, poking at his food. Yeah, maybe. Been kinda busy, though. Busy where? She pressed, her voice steady, but her heart racing. Just work stuff, the usual. His eyes didn't meet hers, and that was enough to push her over the edge. She needed answers, and she wasn't going to wait for them to fall into her lap.
Friday night, Christine couldn't hold it in anymore. King was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone, when she walked in with her laptop. She'd saved the screenshot of Lindsay's selfie, zoomed in on the reflection. She set the laptop down in front of him, her voice calm but sharp. "Explain this," she said. King's eyes flicked to the screen, and for a split second she saw it. Panic. He recovered quickly, leaning back with a forced laugh. "What's this? You zooming in on some random dude now?" "That's your chain, King. Your cap. Don't play me." He rubbed his jaw, stalling. "Babe, you're tripping. That could be anyone. You know how many guys got chains like that? And the cap? The one I've been begging you to toss for years?" Her voice cracked, betraying the anger she'd tried to keep in check. "And don't even start with that Uber air freshener crap. I know you were at the beach with her." King's face hardened, his charm slipping. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Christine. Yeah, I hung out with Lindsay. It was a work thing. We grabbed drinks, that's it." "At a beach cafe? With piña coladas?" She pulled the receipt from her pocket, tossing it onto the coffee table. "You gonna tell me you're suddenly into tropical drinks now?" He stared at the receipt, then at her, his jaw tight. "You went through my stuff?" "I had to," she snapped, "because you're lying to my face." The room felt too small, the air thick with tension. King stood, pacing, his hands running through his hair. "Look, it wasn't a big deal. Lindsay needed to talk. We went for a walk on the beach, that's it." "Then why hide it? Why the fake excuses?" Christine's voice trembled, but she held his gaze. "Why's her selfie got you in it, King?" He didn't answer right away. That silence was louder than a confession. Finally, he sighed, slumping back onto the couch. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he muttered. "I didn't mean for it to go this far."
The admission hit Christine like a wave, cold and relentless. King didn't deny the affair outright, but his half-truths were enough. He'd spent the evening with Lindsay, not as a friend, not as a coworker, but as something more. The coconut scent, the selfie, the receipt, it all made sense now. Christine didn't cry, not then. She felt hollow, like the life she'd built with King had been a house of cards collapsing under the weight of one photo. She thought of the gold chain, how she'd saved up to buy it, how it had symbolized their bond. Now it was tainted, a reminder of his betrayal. She spent the next few days in a fog, replaying their relationship. The late nights, the vague texts, the way he'd started pulling away. She'd seen the signs, but ignored them, trusting him over her own instincts. That was the worst part, not just his lies, but how she doubted herself. Her best friend, Maya, dragged her out for coffee, forcing her to talk. "You're smarter than this, Chris," Maya said, blunt as always. "You knew something was off. Trust that." Maya was right. Christine's gut had been screaming, and she'd silenced it for too long. She went home that night and packed a bag, not to leave forever, but to give herself space. She left King a note. "I need time. Don't call me." She stayed at Maya's, spending sleepless nights scrolling through old photos, trying to pinpoint when things had changed. She thought about confronting Lindsay, but what was the point? The truth was out, and it was hers to deal with. A week later, King texted, begging to talk. She agreed, not because she wanted him back, but because she needed closure. They met at a park, neutral ground. He looked tired, his gold chain tucked under his shirt like he knew it was a trigger. "He messed up," he said, his voice low. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," she replied, her voice steady, "and you let me think I was crazy for noticing." He didn't have much to say after that. No grand apologies, no promises to change. Just a man caught in his own lies, scrambling for excuses that didn't exist. Christine walked away feeling lighter, not because the pain was gone, but because she'd faced it. She'd trusted her instincts, followed the clues, and found the truth. The gold chain, the selfie, the scent, they weren't just evidence of his betrayal. They were proof she wasn't wrong.
Christine didn't know what came next. Maybe she'd move out, start fresh. Maybe she'd forgive King someday, though that felt far off. What she did know was that she was done doubting herself. The coconut scent, the selfie, the gold chain, they'd shattered her trust in him, but they'd also reminded her of her own strength. She deleted Lindsay's selfie from her phone, but not before saving a screenshot. Not as a grudge, but as a reminder. Her instincts were sharp, and she'd never ignore them again. As she walked through the city, the ocean breeze faint in the air, Christine felt a spark of something new. Hope, maybe, or the start of a chapter she'd write on her own terms.